Welcome back, it's Zion from Uke on Demand, and this week we're teaching Hark the Herald Angels Sing. What you just heard was our low G intermediate version, and our easy arrangement, which can work with either high G or low G ukuleles. In this video, we're going to go over the first part of the tutorial for the easy arrangement, but you can get the second part of the tutorial and the tabs for both versions at ukeondemand.com. So to begin, we're going to start out in a G chord. And before we get into the tutorial, I'll play it once so you can hear how it should sound. And to play that section, we're going to, again, be in our G chord, which is just the index finger on the second fret of the C, middle finger on the second fret of the A, and the ring finger on the third fret of the E. And before we strum the chord, we're going to pick around it first. So start by leaving the chord there, pick the C string, and the E string, and we're going to strum now, but we're not going to strum the full chord. We're going to strum up to the A string. So just those top three strings. We don't actually play the A string at all right here. After we do that, we're simply going to pick the second fret of the E. You can add the ring finger back, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to almost strum an entire G chord, but pause right before we hit the A string. Now we're going to start incorporating that A string here. We're going to pick the second fret, and now we get to strum the entire G chord. And then pick open A, now we're going to go into a G5, which is similar to a G chord. It's still going to have the index finger on the second fret of C, and we'll also have a finger on the third fret of the E. But here we're going to also have our pinky on the fifth fret of the A. So it'll be open, second, third, and fifth. And we're going to strum this chord once, and leaving it there, we're just going to pick the A string. And now you can remove these two fingers down on the C string and E string. You can take them off the fretboard, but we'll leave the pinky there, and we'll pick the A string with the open C. Then come down to the third fret of the A, and then back into a normal G chord, and we're going to strum the entire chord this time. Open A, so you can just lift the middle finger up, and then put the finger back down and strum one more time. So that concludes bar 1. I'm going to go back to the beginning and play through it very slowly so that you can play along. Moving into bar 2 now. It's very similar in certain sections to bar 1, but there are some new chords in here. So the first measure on the screen now is exactly the same. Measure 5 is the same as measure 1. So you know that section already. So I'll play through it. Remember, it's second fret of the C, third fret E, and then a partial G chord, just those top three strings, and then second fret of the E, into that same partial G chord, 2nd fret A. Now here is where the first difference is. Instead of strumming another G chord right here, we're instead going to be strumming an A9. And that looks like this. We're going to have the 2nd fret of the A, and we're also going to have the 1st fret of the C. So if you kind of look at it, it sort of looks like a backwards F chord. And so from here, once we strum the chord once, we're simply going to lift the finger off the A string, pick open A, and going into the next bar, instead of going into a G5, which looks like this, which we did in the last bar, we're going to go into a barred D chord instead, which looks like this. So fairly similar, but not quite the same. For here, for the D chord, we're going to be barring the 2nd fret and have our pinky on the 5th fret of the A. Now if you're struggling a little bit with this bar chord, if it sounds a little muted, there are some ways to get around it. One, you want to make sure that thumb is right behind your barring finger. That will allow for the most squeezing power. Second is, if you need to, this isn't the best option, but if you need to, you can do a double bar right here, where you first lay your index finger down, then put your middle on top of it, and then put your pinky on the 5th fret. And you can get a little more squeezing with 2 fingers, but it's definitely not the best option. You want to be able to do it with 1 finger, but in a pinch it can work out. Lastly, if you're still having trouble with the bar chord and don't really want to do it at all, there is one more option for you. You can skip the G string and the C string and just play the 2nd fret of the E with the 5th fret of the A. And just pick those 2 strings together. It won't sound as full as the entire chord, but it certainly makes it more playable. So any of those options will suffice in this instance. Whichever version you use, after you play that first note, we're going to just lift off and pick the open A string, and then pick the 2nd fret of the C with the open A, and then pick the 2nd fret of E. Then we're going to put the 2nd fret of E and 2nd fret of C together, pick those 2, open E, and lastly, to finish out this bar, just the 2nd fret of C. So let's go back to the beginning of this bar and put it together very slowly. That's how to play the first part of Hark the Herald Angels Sing. To get the rest of the tutorial and all the tabs, head over to ukondemand.com and subscribe below so you don't miss our upcoming fingerstyle tutorials. We'll see you next time.